Okay, we've got a video lesson here on scatter plots. This is for use in a flipped classroom. We have some objectives today. Objective 1 is define what a scatter plot is. So we need to kind of understand what we're dealing with here. And Objective 2, learn to construct a scatter plot. Alright, first thing here we have our important vocabulary. And our important vocabulary, we start off, a scatter plot is a graph that shows a relationship between two sets of data. A scatter plot also consists of coordinate points. And in a scatter plot, each point is represented by an independent and a dependent variable. Okay, so you need to make sure you get all of this copied down on your notes. Pause the video now and copy if you need to. Next important vocabulary words we have are independent variable. An independent variable is a variable whose value is not affected by anything else. Let's say a good example would be an independent variable is usually time. Nothing really affects time, it keeps moving forward. Okay, then we also have our dependent variable. Our dependent variable is a variable whose value is determined by the independent variable. So they kind of relate to each other. Let's say some popcorn in the microwave. The more time it's in the microwave, the more popcorn pops. So the amount of popcorn popped would be my dependent variable. Alright, so you might want to pause and write down your definitions. We're going to move on. What does a scatter plot do? Alright, this is something you might have to fill out on your notes. It said a scatter plot shows if there's a relationship between the independent and dependent variable. So we're kind of looking to see if they actually relate to each other. Does the independent variable make the dependent variable what it is? Does the dependent depend on the independent? So we're trying to see if they relate to each other. The more it looks like a line, the stronger the relationship. Alright, we'll talk more about that in a later video. Next thing, let's go ahead and move on. How do you make a scatter plot? Step 1, draw a coordinate plane. Alright, so your coordinate plane should look something like this. Alright, but there's something key to this here. We really only need quadrant 1. So when we're looking at this, we want to use mostly this one for scatter plots. Occasionally you might have a scatter plot that needs some of the other quadrants, but we want quadrant 1. Step 2, label your axis. Okay, so here's an example. You're graphing at the time a cup of hot water sits on a table and the temperature of the water. So we've got two things. We've got time and temperature. So we need to label our XY axis. So the dependent variable should be on the y-axis and the independent variable should be on the x-axis. Let's create ourselves an axis. So since I need quadrant 1, I'm going to draw some lines here, and I have quadrant 1 here. This is quadrant 1. I need to label these axes. So I'm going to put time down here. As I said, time is usually an independent. We said right here that independent variables should go on the x-axis. And then we're going to put temp right here. I'm going to use TMP because temperature can be abbreviated with a period. So temperature. So time and temperature. That's step 2. So step 3 is graph all ordered pairs. Remember that the ordered pairs are x, y. So good thing to remember is we're looking at a table. If you have a table of values, to graph your ordered pairs, remember that this is 5, 1. So the first thing I want to do is I need to create a scale that will fit my ordered pairs. Well, it looks like my x-axis, my largest number is 16. So I need to make sure I have 16 on my scale. So I'm going to go by 2s. I'm going to say 2, 4, 6, 8. You guys get the idea. And then I need to have 18 as the largest on my y-axis. So I'm going to go by the same 2, 4, 6, 8. Alright. So I'm going to use that same scale. Each line counts for 2s. Then all you do is you start graphing each point. So I have to go x 5. So I have to go halfway between 6. And I need to put a dot there, because I need to go up 1, so it's halfway between this line and the x-axis. Next line is 8, 4, so I got to go here and put a dot. Next one is 12, 6, so 10, 12, 2, 4, 6. Next one is 15, 17, so 10, 12, 14, 16, so I got to go 15 halfway here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. Okay, so that's this point 15, 17 I just did. 13, 12, so 10, 12, 13 right here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, then the next one's 17, 18. So 17, so 10, 12, 14, 16 be here. 17, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And then the last one is 16, 11. 10, 12, 14, 16, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There we go. And I now have all my points graphed. Now this is what a scatter plot will look like. Step 1, draw a coordinate plane. Step 2, label your axis. Step 3, plot each point, each ordered pair. Alright, so let's do a couple more examples. What I've got here is I've got a table of values. Looks like we're comparing length and mass. And then to do this, first thing we need to do is, okay, well, I've drawn my coordinate plane. I gave you one on your note sheet, so you can go ahead and use that one. But the first thing we need to do, we're going to go to step 2, and that's label our axis. Okay, usually the one that's on top is going to be your independent variable, so you want to put length down here, and then your mass, the one that's the second one here, is going to go as my dependent variable. So we're going to have mass right there. Now let's take a quick look at our scale. Looks like we have 400, 360, so we've got a couple hundreds in here, and the mass we got to go up to 754. So my scale, I'm going to start here at 0, but I'm going to go by 100, and this one's going to be 200. So each line's 100, and same thing for this one, 100. So each line's going by hundreds. So let's go graph our first point. Our first point, this time, our first point is going to be 405, 715. That's my first ordered pair. So I've got 100, 200, 300, 400, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to be a little above and a little past. It's going to be right about there. Now, for a scatter plot, that's going to be okay. I know it's not exact, it's not perfect, but we're going to do the best we can. Get as close as you can. So my next point's this pair right here. So we have 360, 557. So 100, 200, 300, about halfway, a little more than halfway for 360. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about halfway. So my point's going to be right in there. Do the best you can. Alright, so that's 2 points out of the way. We got 400 and 754, so it's going to be pretty close to this one. So I know this is 1, 2, 3, 400. I know this is up in my 700s. So it's going to be right around here. Alright, 395, 584. So 1, 2, 3, 400. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just a little below it. So that's a point right in there. These points are all pretty close together. 247, 184. So 1, 2, about halfway. 1, not quite to 2. So that's about 184. Again, they don't have to be exact. Just get them pretty close. 280, 1, 2, 3. So a little less than 280, and then 1, 2 and a half. So right about in there. And then our last point, 265, 223. 1, 2, about halfway. 1, 2, a little more, so it's going to be right in there. So I got 2 points almost touching. So here's my scatter plot information. Yours should look pretty much like that. Alright, we got time for one more example. Let's do that example real quick. Now this one, the numbers look to be a little bit easier, so let's see if we can be a little more accurate with this one. Step 1, we already have our quadrant plane drawn for us. So we'll skip to step 2, which is label our axis. I'm going to put time on the bottom. Time is almost always the independent. And we're going to put height. On the side, it's going to be our dependent. Alright, and it might be like the height of a plant in days or something like that. I'm not sure what this one is. Alright, so the first thing we do is we're going to graph our first point. Our first ordered pair is 0, 0, which is right here. Okay, oh, we need to set up a scale. Time, let's go by ones for time. 1, 2, 3. And we got to go to 40. So let's go up by 5s on the Y. Forgot to set my scale before I did the first point. That's okay. Next point is 114. So we go 1 and we go up to 14. Now we're pretty close right there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then we've got 223. Now I do say it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be close. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 23 would be a little more than halfway. So there we go. 325, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. That one's a good easy one to graph. 432. So it's a 4 here. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So it's going to go right here. I got an extra little dot in there. Let me get rid of that guy real quick. That one was an accident. Then 535. It's going to be right here. And then 639. So the 0.639, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 39. It's going to be pretty close to 40. So there we go. Got another scatter plot. Now, real quick look, that one looks like they're pretty close to each other, so this looks like a pretty good relationship. Alright, thanks for watching the video. Be sure to get your notes completed. If you need to, go back and review any section.